event in the 1990s, I think it was 97, where the Canadian High Court laid out the procedure for a province to break away from the Federation. And that is what I focused on in the November newsletter. I know that it goes back to the 60s. It's been a long, long time. But anyway, I think that everything is on pace and nothing has been interrupted. And this is really a remarkable separation movement. It's nonviolent, and they've gotten all the legal framework lined up. And it's an amazing sequence that the liberal Marxist communist globalist fools in Ottawa have been taken off guard. They don't quite know how to handle this. And now you got 7-Eleven shutting down. You got, Crown Royal whiskey, they've shut down. And there's a couple more that have shut down across Canada because they don't want to deal with all this crap. The Western provinces are breaking away. The part I don't quite understand, I don't wish to discuss it here, just to say, I know there's an interior British Columbia movement that I don't quite understand because they don't like the Chinese-run Vancouver, which is where you're sitting. Okay, let's move on, Jim, please.
Is the globalist cabal trying to resolve global problems or trying to do something more sinister and nefarious?
I think they realize that their vaccine, the mRNA, messenger ribonucleic acid, mRNA vaccine designed to kill, maim, wreck immune systems, open the door to cancer. It wasn't as successful as they wanted. So the cabal has been resorting to vaccinating livestock, vaccinating poultry, poisoning the air with chemtrails. Robert Kennedy's done a great job. He just revealed that some of the causes of cancer are chemtrails. They're trying to poison the water. For those who buy salt, try looking for non-fluoridated salt. Fluoride is a poison. Let me repeat that. Fluoride is a poison. It killed numerous people at the Manhattan Project in the 1940s. When they made the atomic bomb, fluoride poisoning. So they put fluoride poisoning in our salt to reduce human intelligence. And they say that it's for strengthening tooth structure. That's like something you read on the shithouse wall. Okay, so there's a lot of effort to poison the air, poison the food, poison the water, and to poison the education system to make everybody arguing over gender instead of math and science. So yeah, there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on. The globalist cabal, they're getting their comeuppance in London because last week there was a 1,200 farm tractor demonstration and march or roll to the parliament. They're demanding Keir Starmer resign along with a parliamentary main member named Reese, a woman. They're taxing farm property. They're taxing it like £200,000. They're taxing farm property to fill the holes in their budget. Okay, the globalists are getting their comeuppance. It's all flying back in their faces. I'd like to see farm tractors march in Netherlands and in France. And let's get on with the destruction and collapse of the European Union. Let's get on with it.
The World Economic Forum slogan is "You'll own nothing and be happy." How would they make people own nothing?
Well, just lose your property with a mortgage dispute, failure from lost job, lost income. So endure the shame and hardship of a foreclosure. It's becoming harder to get a mortgage loan. So rents are going up. And the migrants, the 20 million migrant trash that came into the United States over the last 6 years, they have raised the rents. So it's becoming difficult to manage housing while the electricity is way under capacity. There's no great national effort, not even by Trump, to improve the electric grid and its capacity. So electric electricity prices are going up, costs. They're doing the most damage. The globalists are World Economic Forum out of Davos. That's their mouthpiece. There's nothing economic about Davos and their World Economic Forum. It's all political. It's all banker. It's all globalist rule, trying to create a global fascist state, eliminate national boundaries, get people confused over whether they're male or female. Hey, I check under the hood. I don't need to check often, but when I check under the hood, I find that I'm male. Not a big problem. Not a challenge. No wasted time away from my mathematics and financial economic analysis. They want, this is, the Davos crowd. It's really the Swiss elite. They want us all to be poor and sick and rely on handouts for food, which would be denied if we open our mouths and complain. So I tell them, F you, and let's move forward. Let's reduce the carbon footprint by putting the globalists in the ground. I heard a funny one. It said, if pedophilia is just another form of affection, then maybe burying them alive is just another form of gardening. Okay, let's move on.
What are you hearing on the Rob and Michelle Reiner double murder?
To my surprise, Rob Reiner, who was meathead in All in the Family with Carol O'Connor, Rob Reiner is, or was, because he got his throat slit. He's no longer among the living. Rob Reiner, and it's a terrible tragedy. Rob Reiner was a major ringleader in Hollywood for the anti-Trump movement. And his role will become better known in the following days and weeks. But I don't really know. I just have a suspicion that his son, Nicholas, might have been kind of a rebel and hated his father and got sick of the deranged Trump syndrome that was evident with Rob Reiner, who's a very funny-looking, ugly fellow. He's worm food right now, but I think the son might have been sick to death of his father and said, you need to shut up, and if you don't shut up, I'm going to slit your throat, and he finally did. It's a tragedy, boo-hoo, and I heard that there was a meeting that day scheduled with Big Mike, Michael LaVaughn Robinson, who goes by the name of Michelle Obama. When he checks under his hood, he sees male organs. Big ones. So, maybe this is like a divine hand to shut up some of the satanic Hollywood element, and I'll leave it there.
President Trump designated fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. What could this mean for Canada that he calls a narco state?
It is a weapon of mass destruction. It's basically a Chinese weapon.
Oh, yeah.
They're using Canadian porous borders. I do believe that Canada, most of the leaders are not part of this, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police are doing jack shit nothing at the borders to stop it. So that has excited Trump. I believe it's a battle with China, not Canada. Fentanyl is coming through the Mexican border too, but it doesn't get as much attention as it does in Canada. Trump wants he wants a stick to bludgeon Canada with, and for him, it's fentanyl. But to me, it's a Chinese weapon that is coming through the porous Canadian border. We got 3,500-mile border. That is not manageable. And neither is the Mexican border. That's 2,000 miles border. It's not, our borders are not manageable, and our seacoasts are a little more manageable. What does it mean for Canada? I think it just means more friction. And, Trump is very likely to say that we're going to stop the fentanyl trade from the Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta borders because they're going to be part of the United States. That's probably where we're heading.
Do you think Ilhan Omar will be deported, and who is that?
She's the weirdo Somalian in Minnesota who has been watching her constituency vanish as they get arrested and deported by Immigration Custom Enforcement, ICE. I don't like calling it ICE. I call it ICE. Omar is the loudmouth, crazy woman who hates the United States, calls it an oppressive nation, calls it a terrorist nation, but has managed to compile a $40 million estate from nothing by means of campaign fraud and by means of welfare fraud. The biggest fraud in state history is unfolding in Minnesota right now, and I hear an $8.7 billion figure. It has to do with COVID food program. I don't know why they call it COVID. I guess it started during that fake pandemic, but $8.6 billion is the total for fraud having to do with food programs, feeding the poor, feeding kids in school. That got defrauded. Elderly services programs, that got defrauded. And I think immigration services like counseling or whatever, I'm not certain about the third part, but it all got defrauded under Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, the moron, whom Trump called retarded. I've never in my entire adult life heard a president call a sitting governor retarded. And let me just say, he is showing great signs of being retarded. This is going to blow up. The fraud is now extended to Social Security, with the migrants getting Social Security that they're not eligible for in Minnesota, and it's going to blow up and I think take down Governor Walz. Right now, there is a non-Somali white woman who has been arrested and prosecuted. Watch her flip and bring down a bunch more of some of the leading Somalis. Let me just say something about intelligence levels, because I've always been studious and trying in my adult life to be an excellent scholar as best I can. And, while I'm really good in studies, I might not be all that great in real life. Real life is tough. But the lowest IQ in my 8th grade class with 60 kids was 82. And the highest was 132. And 82 was the lowest. Well, there's an international demographic group that did a study, and it listed Somalia as near the bottom for intelligence at a national level. The national average of Somali's IQ is 68, which is an order of magnitude lower than the dumbest kid in my 8th grade class. And I know the name, I'd rather not say it, but that dumb kid, was dumb. Really dumb. Barely got C's, barely graduated, and it's really sad. So Trump has been on the campaign, and he's saying some things that are, not really honorable. He's calling all Somalis trash. No, he should be more careful. Let's just say that they're some of the dumbest Africans on earth, and they came to the United States and ended up not assimilating except to organize their fraud. So he's trying to deport them on a mass scale. But the Somalis have organized a march, and they got 70,000 of them, clogging up roadways, clogging up bus lines, clogging up train stations, and making it easy for the ICE soldiers to gather them up for mass deportation. I think Omar is going to be indicted for campaign fraud and for immigration application fraud, and they got all kinds of evidence. The FBI is is on her like white on rice. I would love to see Omar deported, kicked out of the Congress. She's not a good influence. She's like the African version of Alexandra Cortez, a loudmouth moron. Cortez was barely a B student and lied about her Boston University academic career. She called it an economics degree. No, it was economics and international finance, for which she got B's and C's in all of her economics courses. Doesn't know jack shit about economics. Omar knows a lot about fraud, and she's really very good at it. She's going to get, I think she's going to get herself deported. I'd like to see her jailed first and flip, and then forfeit her wealth and be given a boat ride out.
Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene is a white hat? And what is a white hat?
A white hat is a patriot as opposed to a globalist who's evil, and black hat. I don't really like the white hat terminology, but I prefer patriot. I think she's a patriot, and she called Trump on too many of his, well, let's just say, minor and medium-sized failures in the first year. I tend to believe that Trump, in order to get some of his major projects done, will need 2 to 3 years and multiple steps in preliminary. Like, you know, prosecution against Pfizer, stuff like that. Marjorie Taylor Greene has called Trump on failed campaign promises, and she went a bit too far and decided to resign. She probably got threatened, probably was told that she wouldn't have much power in the Congress and probably wouldn't win the next primary. Those are every 2 years, so she quit. I have respect for Marjorie, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. We need to step back and be careful about criticism. That includes me. I don't like the slow pace of going after Pfizer, but it could be that the strategy will be to circle the wagons, remove some of the extreme funding, undermine their cancer industry with ivermectin, fenbendazole, zinc, and vitamin C and D, which has, I believe now, 100,000 successful cancer cures. Not 100, not 1,000, like 100,000 worldwide. Ivermectin, fenbendazole, vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. If you use all them, it'll cost you $100, but it won't cost you $70,000 like chemotherapy, which does not cure cancer. Anyway, there could be a circle the wagons, undermine the cancer industry, undermine the big pharma. This is going to be very complicated because big pharma is run and owned primarily majority by the Rockefellers. You don't kick to the curb and rip the power strings away from a $15 trillion complex. They own armies. They own mercenaries. They own a piece of the FBI. They own a big piece of Langley, and they have hitmen. I've heard from multiple military sources that there are death threats against the entire Trump family and the entire Robert Kennedy family. So they got to move slowly. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene was too aggressive and didn't work with Trump and didn't wish to find out what the progress was and what the plan was. I think it's some of the bigger projects are going to be maybe in year 2 or 3, maybe year 3. I mean, it's a 4-year term. We're not even done with the first.
As this is our last interview for 2025, are you optimistic for 2026?
I am. I think it'll be disruptive. We do not have the ability to remove the power strings, cables from the globalists without a battle. There are numerous trillion-dollar accounts from the globalists that have been sacked. There have been a couple globalists that have flipped in particular one of the Rothschild sons. This is going to be difficult. They might bring about a financial crisis in order for the elites and the Wall Street big banks, including BlackRock, to buy up a lot of the resources and assets before the reconstruction. This is very complicated. People need to hang on, especially their XRP, for which I have a chapter every month now. I roll all the crypto and digital finance concepts and events and analysis. I roll it into it, but I call it an XRP chapter with a name that includes that. There's going to be a lot of disruption. We need to avoid the central bank digital currency because it's going to be tied with digital ID. I want a digital ID that does not have any linkage to financials, but that's kind of a wet dream. We'll see. I'm optimistic about a revolution, a transformation of digital finance, and huge opportunities for those who have the ability and knowledge and skill and savvy and patience to get involved with certain cryptos, because JP Morgan, BlackRock are getting into them and not publicizing this. They want to drive down the price, have you lose patience, lose interest, you sell out, and they buy. So it's going to be a very interesting transition for the next 6 months, during which I expect the silver price to go way past $100. It's unobtainium. There is very little, if any, supply. And let me remind folks of the Gresham law, that the highest quality money vanishes during the financial and economic crises. The highest quality money is gold and silver. There's not going to be a vanishing of gold supply, but there will be a vanishing of silver supply. And we might see some bigger consequences soon for declaring silver to be a national security metal in the United States, probably in Canada also, probably in all the Five Eyes nations, Canada, England, New Zealand, and Australia. Yeah, I'm very excited about the next year. I think there are going to be maybe some really positive developments even in my life. My life has been tough. I have been on the receiving end of some very powerful attacks that are not easily recognized, because I've exposed not just fraudulent quarters, but evil camps, pure evil camps. So it's great to talk with you again, Jim, and it's been an interesting year. It's been a productive year, but it's been a rough